Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, The Intimacy Lab. Let me ask you something you've probably never said out loud, but you've felt deep in your chest. Have you ever looked at a woman you love, or once loved and thought, what is it she's really craving from me? You gave her your time. You provided, you tried to do the right thing, you listened, maybe even sacrificed, and yet something didn't land. Something was still missing, and maybe now she's distant, cold, or maybe she walked away altogether. Here's the truth most men are never taught. A woman doesn't fall for a man because he solves her problems or plays by the rules. She falls for the way he makes her feel, not with words, not with gifts, but with presence, with energy. With an invisible emotional gravity that pulls her closer even when she tries to resist. She can't always explain it, but she knows when it's there, and more importantly, she feels when it's missing. There is one thing that you can do that shifts everything. A single quality that changes how she looks at you, talks to you, sleeps with you, and stays with you. And in today's conversation, we're going to talk about that one thing, not through games, not through manipulation, but through something real, something ancient, something she cannot help but respond to. You see, so many men come to me and say, I just don't understand her anymore. They ask with genuine confusion, sometimes frustration in their voice. She used to light up when I walked in the room, now it's like I don't exist. And when I ask, well, how are you showing up in the room, they pause, they fumble, not because they're doing anything wrong, but because no one ever taught them the language of energy. Let me explain something to you that may shift everything. A woman responds to energy before logic, to essence before reason, and the one thing she cannot resist is a man who is fully embodied in himself. A man who isn't trying to impress her, fix her, win her over, but is rooted in his own emotional center, aware of his presence, and at peace with who he is. That's not just confidence, it's not arrogance, it's not some pickup line or alpha male show, it's something much quieter, much deeper, it's emotional gravity. You walk into a room and you don't seek permission to be there. You don't shrink, you don't puff up either, you just are, and here's what most men don't understand, this is not something you perform for her. This is something you become for yourself, because when you stop trying to get her to feel something about you, she starts feeling everything she was longing to feel with you. Desire, safety, mystery, longing, trust, even surrender, but it begins with how you hold yourself in your own life. Let's look at something simple. When you speak, do you listen to yourself? I mean, really, do you take your time? Do you feel the weight of your own words? Or do you rush, fidget, fill the space because silence feels awkward? A woman notices. She senses when a man's words come from his core, not just from his mouth. It's not about what you say. It's about how connected you are to yourself when you say it, because when a man speaks from that grounded place, his words become more than information. They become direction, invitation, seduction, and I don't just mean in a romantic way. I mean the seduction of trust, of certainty, of stability, that feeling in a woman's nervous system that says, I can rest here, I can open here, I can let go here. And the beauty is, this is something any man can cultivate. It's not about being tall or rich or having a perfect jawline. It's about something that lives behind your eyes. The way you breathe, the way you move through disappointment, the way you remain steady when the world pulls at you. That's where we begin. Let's talk about embodiment, because embodiment isn't just about posture or physicality, though that helps. It's about feeling at home in your body, knowing what you feel, even when you don't say it out loud. It's about being with yourself, even when no one is watching. You'd be amazed how many men walk around disconnected from their own experience. They don't know when they're angry until they explode. They don't know they're hurting until she walks out the door. But here's the thing, you can't hold space for her feelings if you're not in touch with your own. You can't connect with her softness if you're scared of your own tenderness. And yet this is what she longs for, not a man who is perfect, but a man who feels himself and is not afraid of what he finds. And I get it, many of you were raised in homes where being a man meant being stoic, silent, strong. But real strength is not the absence of feeling. Real strength is the capacity to stay with the feeling, to breathe through it, to hold it without letting it control you. That kind of presence, it's magnetic. You become the calm in her storm, the depth in a shallow world, the space where she can finally exhale. And here's something else you must know. Women don't want to lead your emotional life for you. They don't want to be your compass, your therapist, your savior. They want to feel like they are joining you, not carrying you. So when you cultivate presence, when you come home to yourself, you make it safe for her to come closer. And not just physically, I mean emotionally, spiritually, in ways that she may have held back for years, waiting for a man who could meet her there. And no, this doesn't mean you have to spill your guts or cry on command. It means you learn to feel without fleeing, to pause before reacting, to name your truth without attacking hers. That is the kind of man she can't resist. Not because he forces her to desire him, but because his presence frees her to be more of herself. That's where intimacy begins. Not with roses or candlelight, but in the quiet moments when a man is so present, so grounded, that a woman feels safe enough to stop performing and simply melt. And when she melts, it's not because you did something to her. It's because you stopped doing too much. You stopped proving, stopped chasing, stopped trying to manipulate the outcome, and that stillness, that grounded, unshakable presence, it created a space where she could finally just be feminine. Be soft, be wild, be playful, be unsure, be real. You see, women live in a world where they are constantly expected to perform. Be strong, be sexy, be composed, be sweet, and it exhausts them. But when a woman meets a man who is so secure in himself that he doesn't need her performance to feel valuable, she begins to shed the layers. Slowly, cautiously, but steadily, and in those moments when she stops trying to impress you and starts revealing herself, a different kind of intimacy is born. Not just romantic intimacy, but emotional nakedness. That is the place where real connection lives. And it can only happen with a man who is safe, not in the weak sense of the word, but in the sacred sense. Safe because he doesn't rush to fix her feelings, safe because he doesn't judge her chaos, safe because he is not intimidated by her intensity. He holds it and she feels it. So what does that kind of man look like in the real world? It's the man who doesn't flinch when she's upset. He doesn't panic, try to please her, or shut down. Instead, he softens his body, he breathes. He listens not to respond, but to understand. She can see it in his eyes. He's not afraid of this moment, and that makes her trust him more. It's the man who doesn't get pulled into the chaos of every little storm. He doesn't argue with drama, nor does he disappear from it. He stays grounded, present. He says with his energy, "You don't have to manage me, I've got me." And that makes her want to open her heart wider than before, because now she's not alone in holding the emotional weight. But let's be clear, presence is not the same as passivity. This isn't about becoming her emotional sponge or standing still while she throws daggers. Presence has boundaries. Presence knows the difference between empathy and self-betrayal, because if you lose yourself in her emotions, you're not being present, you're being consumed. And a woman can feel that too, and over time it will exhaust her and erode the very trust you're trying to build. What she truly wants is a man who can witness her without absorbing her, who can empathize without collapsing, who can stand beside her fire without either smothering it or getting burned. That is power, and that is earned, not given. It comes from practice, from being with your own fear when it rises, from not shutting down when your anger shows up, from sitting with the loneliness, the shame, the grief, and not numbing it with distraction. That's how you cultivate the inner spaciousness to hold another person in their full humanity. And when a man does that, something almost mystical begins to happen. She starts to feel safe enough to feel more. She stops guarding, she stops testing, she stops withholding, because now she knows she's not alone in this space. There's another adult here, not a boy who needs her reassurance, not a man who uses silence as punishment, but a grounded, emotionally literate human being who knows who he is, even when she's unsure of herself. And ironically, this is the kind of man most women fantasize about, but so few ever meet, because this man isn't trying to dominate her. He's not trying to control her. He's not trying to make her small so he can feel big. He simply is. And from that place his words land differently, his gaze holds a different weight, his touch becomes more than just skin. It becomes sanctuary. So if you're wondering what it looks like to become irresistible, not in a fleeting, superficial way, but in a way that makes her lean in when you speak, touch you when you breathe, trust you when... The world shakes its starts here, not with a strategy, not with a text template, but with presence, the one thing that has no timeline, no age limit, and no shelf life. You see, presence is not something you borrow from a book or a video. It's not something you fake until you make. It is practiced, lived, embodied. It's the way you speak to the waitress, the way you walk into your home, the way you treat your body when no one's watching. She senses that. She may not be able to articulate it, but her body knows. Her heart knows. Her intuition screams, yes, this man sees the world clearly. He sees me clearly, and I feel safe to be me in his presence. That is what she can't resist. Not the money, not the car, not the six-pack or clever line, but the man who is so present with himself that she finally finds permission to be present with herself. And now that we've opened this space, we're ready to explore something even more intimate, the silent language of desire that moves beneath words. Desire is not born in words. It lives in the spaces between them, in the pauses, the stillness, the glance you hold 1 second too long, the way your hand rests not in a rush to grab, but as if you've earned the right to be there. And this is what most men miss. They think women want constant affirmation, endless attention, grand gestures to prove devotion. But real desire, the kind that makes her crave you in the middle of the day, the kind that lingers in her body long after the moment has passed, that desire is evoked, not demanded. It's not about doing more. It's about being more in the moments that matter. When a man understands presence, he doesn't just create safety, he creates tension. That delicious, magnetic tension that awakens her senses, because she can feel you not trying to get something, but fully inhabiting the moment with her. He doesn't rush to fill silences. He lets the silence breathe. He watches her with interest, not intensity. He makes her feel seen, not scanned. This is where desire is born, not in the chase, but in the moment you make her feel like she's the only woman in the room, without needing to say it. She just knows, and here's what many men don't realize. Women feel desire in the subtle, the shift in your tone when you speak her name. The way your presence makes her feel chosen, not for what she gives you, but for who she is when she's around you. Because when a woman feels chosen, not controlled, not bought, not pressured, but deeply, authentically chosen, she softens. She opens, she desires, but if you treat desire like a transaction, I did this, now you owe me that, she retreats. Not because she doesn't care, but because her body no longer feels safe to surrender. A woman's eroticism does not open through logic. It opens through trust, through feeling, through the silent awareness that the man beside her is not trying to escape intimacy, but is anchored enough to lead her into it. And this is what makes you unforgettable. When you know how to hold space for her without shrinking or controlling, you become the man she keeps replaying in her mind even if she tries to forget. You become the one whose presence shifts her posture, whose silence makes her feel more than some men's poetry ever could. Because there is weight in your being, substance in your stillness, and here's the beautiful paradox: the more present you are, the less you have to do to be attractive. Your energy starts speaking before you even say a word. She notices how you touch your own face, how you stand when no one's looking, how you respond when plans change or when she pulls away. And in every one of those tiny moments she's feeling you. Is he grounded? Is he reactive? Is he secure? Is he playing a part? Or is he really here? That's the scan she runs, whether she's conscious of it or not. And it's not about perfection. It's about congruence. You don't have to be the best. You just have to be real. When a man walks in truth, even imperfect truth, he earns her trust. But when he wears a mask, she may play along for a while, but she'll never fully open. So, if you want to be the man she trusts with her body, her secrets, her surrender, then learn to hold yourself first. Know how to sit with your anger without projecting it. Know how to feel desire without demanding it. Know how to be disappointed without becoming cruel. Know how to say no without disappearing. That is what she can't resist. Not because she needs you to be perfect, but because she can finally relax into the space you've created. She wants to feel your eyes not just on her, but in her world, noticing what others don't, the way she plays with her hair when she's nervous, the way she avoids eye contact when she's hurt, the way her tone shifts when she's craving closeness but doesn't know how to ask. When you notice that, without needing her to explain, you become rare, not flashy, not loud, but rare. The kind of man who knows that true intimacy isn't about always touching her, but about reaching her. And that takes courage, not the kind of courage you show off, the quiet kind, the courage to stay present when everything in you wants to control, withdraw, or distract. That's where the power is, not in what you have, but in who you are when nothing's going your way. When she's emotional, when she's confused, when she tests you, when she pushes, just to see if you'll pull away. If you stay centered, if you stay soft without collapsing, you become her anchor, and women remember their anchors. Not for what they gave, but for what they awakened in her. Now you're not just a man she liked, you're a man she felt. Deeply, in ways she can't explain to her friends. She just knows you changed something in her, and once a woman feels that, truly feels that, she can't unfeel it. You see, when a man learns to hold space without trying to fill it, something extraordinary begins to happen. Not only does she begin to feel more connected to you, she begins to feel more connected to herself in your presence. That's the secret. It's not about pulling her closer. It's about becoming the kind of man whose energy makes her want to come closer without being asked. Because she doesn't feel invaded, she feels invited, and invitation is everything in feminine desire. She has to feel like it's her choice, not her obligation, not her role, not her reward for good behavior, but a desire that rises from within her because something about your presence speaks directly to her nervous system. It says you don't have to be more than you are right now. You don't have to perform. You don't have to guess if you're enough. And in a world where women are endlessly pressured to be more, prove more, do more, you become the sacred interruption. A man who doesn't require a performance in exchange for love, but instead offers attunement, the ability to notice without controlling, to feel without being overwhelmed, to lead without domination, to desire without possession, because when you can hold yourself with that kind of integrity, you become safe for her to open. And not just in the way we often think of intimacy, but in her mind, in her creativity, in her dreams, in her hidden fears and unspoken wants. She begins to tell you the things she's never told anyone. She begins to show you the parts of herself she thought no one would understand. And you become the man who gets to see all of her, not because you pushed, but because you earned it. And do you want to know what's truly irresistible? Not being the man who takes everything from her, but being the man who awakens everything in her. And you do that not with bravado or declarations, but with presence, with emotional steadiness, with integrity. When your words match your actions, when your promises aren't loud but lived, when your strength is not a performance but a posture, that's when she starts to say things like, "I feel more like myself when I'm with him. He doesn't just make me feel loved, he makes me feel alive, because in your presence she isn't shrinking. She's expanding. She isn't tiptoeing, she's rooted." That's how you know you're becoming him, not the fantasy, but the real, grounded, deeply felt masculine energy that draws her in without chasing and holds her without gripping. And no, this isn't about doing everything for her. This isn't about pleasing. It's about knowing yourself so well that you can stay true to your values even when tested, that you can honor your own needs without guilt, that you can be soft without being spineless. Women are watching for this. Every time she tests your boundary, every time she questions your intent, every time she withdraws just to see if you'll collapse. And when you remain not stubborn, not reactive, but calmly rooted in yourself, she starts to feel what she's been craving but couldn't name. I can trust him, not because he says so, but because he knows who he is. And suddenly her guard drops, the mask comes off, the games stop, because she doesn't need to perform anymore. You've created something rare, a connection that isn't built on fear or fantasy, but on truth, and this kind of connection doesn't just affect her. It changes you too, because in her softening you start to feel more, in her trust you start to lead with more care. In her surrender, you learn to value tenderness not as weakness, but as power. This is the beauty of intimacy when it's real. It's not about control, it's about co-creation. She brings her depth, you bring your steadiness, she brings her fire. You bring your grounding, and together you both rise, not in a fairy tale, but in something far more sacred, a connection where two humans meet as whole people, not half, formed seekers looking to fill a void. And this is why the one thing she can't resist is not your charm, or your bank account, or your perfect words. It's your presence, the way you look at her without needing her to be anything other than what she is. The way you hold her joy and her sorrow with equal respect. The way you know how to stay not because you're trapped, but because you're choosing to be there. And maybe, just maybe in a world full of noise, you've become her silence, her anchor, her home. Let that be your reminder. Presence is not a trick, it's not a tactic. It's the truth you come back to when everything else fades. And when you learn to live there, truly live there, you'll no longer ask how to make her want you. Because her desire will become a natural response to the man you've already become.